Hi everybody, this is Diamonds Are Forever. I just want to discuss one of my favorite movies. I don't know if y'all ever watched it, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Y'all, I love that movie. It was my girl from Jungle Fever and Rebecca as the nanny. Lord have mercy. It was crazy. So let me tell you how we start the movie. Okay, Claire, she's pregnant with her second child. She goes to see the doctor, which is Peyton's husband, Dr. Mott. Okay, as soon as she gets there, which I find inappropriate, because especially she's a first-time patient. I never saw a doctor doing that, being a mother myself. He told the nurse to distract her out the room. Oh, go tell the other lady about the test results so he can be alone in the room with her. So he tells her, to put on a gown and, scoop down, put your legs up on the stirrups. So she's looking at him feeling kind of like uncomfortable, but saying, I didn't know they did this for the first time, later in my stage. And he said, well, I do this for first time patients here. So she's looking at him. She's feeling a little unease, but she's still looking at him. So he puts on the gloves in front of her. But as he's going between the legs, he takes off the gloves. So he's feeling her down there inappropriate and rubbing on her breast. So now she's knowing she's being sexual harassed. So she hurries and runs out of there. She's having an asthma attack, y'all. So the receptionist like, do you want to make another appointment? She run home. She goes take a shower. She goes tell her husband, she's crying, that she can't believe she's been sexually harassed. And her husband was like, you need to report this. So she's the first person to report that this doctor has sexually harassed her. So other ladies come forward. So the doctor learns that there's going to be a mad lawsuit against him and everything. So he goes home and kills himself. So of course when he kills himself, I guess you don't get no assurance. So then they have the funeral for him and his wife, I'm just going to say, Peyton. And she goes to the meeting, and I guess the lawyers, all of them telling her that, she has to leave the house. There's nothing left for her. So she's pregnant, first time with her husband's child. So as she's getting up from the table, one of the lawyers like, do you need any help? Lord, the look on her face she gave him. So she's walking with her head up, but yes, she's having pain in her stomach. So she falls on the floor. They rush her to the hospital. You see all blood between her legs. So, as they're, taking the baby out, I guess with forceps, the baby dies. So she goes into a deep depression. So they had to give her hysterectomy. So that means she can never have another baby, even if she falls in love. So as she's in the hospital, she's looking at the TV. The nurses come in and say she's not eating. And who picture appears on the TV is Claire, saying this is the first woman to file a lawsuit against her husband. So she's looking at the TV like, yeah, I'm going to get you. So let's do months later. Claire has her baby. This guy, he comes solemn. He's like mentally challenged to help build the fence. And he loves this family so much. He loves her daughter, Emma, the husband. I mean, he just cares so much. And he wants to pick up the baby, but the Better Day Society said he's not allowed to pick up the baby. So as her daughter is going off to school, now here's the kicker, y'all. Claire forgets Emma's jacket, so she's trying to run and catch the bus. All of a sudden the bus stop and you see Peyton appear. So the Peyton's like, oh, thank you, bus driver, and Claire runs up and hands Emma her jacket through the window. So then she tells Peyton, oh, thank you, for stopping the bus. And then as she's walking away, she was like, excuse me, do you know where the cartels live? And she said, oh, that's me. And then she said, oh, I just come here with a nanny position. And she's like, oh, come on in my house. Wrong side, wrong. To me, I felt Claire was stupid. Anybody come in the street before you watch my child or anything else, or you're going to do a serious police background check. You're going to have your picture taken to verify who you are and your fingerprints. Then you can watch my child. She just let a strange woman come in there with some fake reference. So she was like, oh, can you come back later and have, and meet my husband, for dinner stuff. She's showing Peyton, the place around there, and as Claire is in the nursery breastfeeding the child, Peyton's looking at her like weird and strange, and then Claire was like, oh, he's hungry. So then she invites Solomon to meet Peyton. When Solomon comes upstairs, now he's outside painting his stuff. By mistake, he put a little bit paint on Peyton's jacket. She snatched that handbag so fast, like she wanted to slap the crap out of Solomon. And Solomon was like, he can sense. He was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then she looked at him like, accidents can happen. So he's looking like, oh, this woman is crazy as heck. So as she's having dinner with them, Claire and her husband, they're talking whether or not they should, hire her as a nanny. So she sees that by mistake, Claire earring fell off. So let me tell you what this crazy fool did. She picked up the earring and put it in the bassinet inside Joey's mouth. And all of a sudden, she hurried up and snatched the earring out of her mouth. And you hear Joey crying. So Claire and her husband and her daughter Emma, they all come running in. And she said, oh, Mommy, he could have choked on the earring. It's like, oh, thank you so much. And that's what sealed the deal. You see her the next day. Solomon's looking like, oh, God, this woman is actually coming here to work. So she's looking at Solomon. She brings the chime. Claire is showing her downstairs is where you're going to stay at. So as she's staying there, she's meeting Claire's friend, Marlene. She didn't meet her yet. She was downstairs sleeping and the alarm went off to that music. So she's creeping up from the basement. She goes to the nursery. At first you think she's going to put the pillow on the baby and choke her. But no, she took the pillow and she covered the monitor and she's breastfeeding Claire's child. I would have been like, oh, H to crackers. But some people were saying, oh, that's weird that she would do that. You got to remember, back then in slavery times, when the white lady gave birth and the black woman that already had baby was breastfeeding, she would give her child to breastfeed her kids too. So when you see that, people are like, how did that baby latch onto her breast? You got to think about that too. Back in the slavery times, them white children were being breastfed by the black slaves while their own kids was getting neglected. So what's the name there? Claire and her husband, Marlene, and her husband, Marlene and Michael, they used to be boyfriend and girlfriend back in the days. So they're getting ready to go out to dinner. So Claire's upstairs and Peyton's looking at her, and she was like, oh, that's a pretty dress. Should I wear this jacket or that jacket? So while Claire is, I guess she went in the bathroom, whatever, Peyton looks at the perfume Poison, and she puts it on the dress to stain it, so she couldn't wear it. So Claire puts on the dress, and she's like, oh my God, I must have spilled perfume by mistake. And Peyton's all phony. Oh, let me go downstairs and get some club water. As she's getting club water, Marlene, her husband, and Michael's down there. And they was like, oh, this is our new nanny. So Marlene goes over there, introduces herself, and she smells the perfume, and she says, you're wearing Claire's perfume, Poison. And she tried to play it off. She said, oh, I'm just getting some club soda. And she goes back upstairs. So as they're getting ready to leave to go out for dinner, what's her name there? Peyton's on the steps inside the house. She was like, yes, I had the phone number. Y'all have fun. So they're going out to the restaurant. They're drinking. And Michael, Claire's husband, only smokes when Marlene's around. And Marlene was telling Claire, there's a saying, the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. So as they're talking, having a good time, back at the house, what's the name there? Emma's downstairs in the basement with Peyton. And Peyton was like, oh, Marlene seems like a nice person. She said, oh, my daddy. And then they used to go together. So she's using all this to her advantage. Lord, since this woman has came in their life, she has made Claire's life a living hell. So one day, Michael, he had to get important papers out. So he asked, his wife to take it to the FedEx. So Claire also works at the what is it? With the plants and all that. So they're inside as Claire is watering the plants, and Peyton's like, did you always love doing this? And she's like, yeah, since I was like a kid and stuff. So what's the name there? Claire is sitting down there holding Joey, and then Claire asks Peyton, do you have any family? She said, only family I had, my husband got murdered. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then Peyton looks at her, I believe people get what's coming to them. So she was like, is there a bathroom? And she said that way. So she goes in the bathroom. She has the paperwork that Claire is supposed to send off by her husband. She rips it up inside the stall. She takes the plunger and starts beating the crap out of the bathroom. She fixes her hair and comes out. So as they go to the FedEx place, Peyton's in the car with Joey, and she's just looking, smiling, because she knows she ripped that paper up. So Claire is panicking. She can't find the paper. So she goes to the car, and she's having another asthma attack. And she was playing off like, what's the matter? What's the matter, Claire? Is something matter? And she's like, I can't find her papers. My husband's papers. I'm sorry. So when they get back to the home, she's trying to explain to her husband, I don't know what happened to the paper. And her husband like, it's all right, I'll do the paper over again. But you could tell her husband is kind of pissed off at her. So as time is going by, she's asking, she's trying to breastfeed her baby, but Joey's not latching on to her. So this is morning time. She made pancakes. And oh Lord have mercy, y'all. No, sorry about that. I think it was the section where Solomon was out there playing with Emma, while Claire and Peyton, they was in the laundry room, and Claire was just smiling, saying, Emma just loves Solomon. And then, Peyton puts the seed inside her head. I don't mean to be bad, but I think the way he touches her, and at first, Claire is like, no, Solomon wouldn't do nothing like that. And she said, oh, maybe you're right. So she just smiling. And Claire is looking at Solomon like, Then all of a sudden, I think she planted that because when she was up there breastfeeding Joey, Solomon was on the ladder and he looked in the window and saw Peyton breastfeed. So Peyton's looking like, damn, what I'm going to do with this Negro. So Emma's getting off the bus, running the yard. She's showing her pumpkin or something to Solomon. And Peyton comes out and be like, Emma, can you go in the house? I want to speak to Solomon. So she backs him against the wall, saying, do you like what you see? You a retard. And she smacks him, and he started to cry. And then she said, go ahead and tell my story is going to be better than yours. And he's crying with tears, saying, I won't let you hurt this family. So that's when she plotted about him touching Emma, which he would never do. So they're out there building the birdhouse, and Peyton comes out there with Joey, and she's like, Claire, do you think Solomon has some batteries? And I said, yeah, he keeps it probably in his bike thing. So she looks in the bike, and what's inside the basket? Emma panties. So she starts to scream, grab Emma. She tells her husband the better day society comes and takes him away, which is sad because it was like, how you gonna believe that he would do that to your daughter? So Emma is crying, and what's in there, Claire, she's crying, and instead of Emma, she runs to Peyton, saying why, and all of a sudden it just gets worse, y'all. This woman was just doing everything to sabotage there. She was trying to seduce the husband. She tried to kill Claire by setting up the greenhouse in the backyard. She rigged it so when Claire comes out there, the glass will fall on her. But it didn't, because she had to do an errand. So what's the name there? Her friend, oh Lord, what was her name? Madeline, whatever. She's a real estate agent. So she started looking into it, and she saw Dr. Mont's wife picture at the funeral. It was like bingo. So she's rushing. She's rushing to Claire house, trying to call on the phone. And what's the name? Peyton picks up the phone and says, she's not here right now. And she was like, can I take a message, Marlene? And she was like, sure you won't. So when she gets to the house, Peyton opens up the door, lets her in, and she was like, where's Claire? And she was like, oh, she's in the greenhouse. So she rushes to the backyard, opens the greenhouse, and she sees the glass fall and kills Marlene. So she's eating an apple, which is weird, the way she's eating it and looking at it. So she goes out there to check that she's dead. So she goes through the whole house, and she sprays out all the asthma pumps that Claire has in there. She takes Joey to go for a walk, to try to leave the scene of the crime. So Claire comes back with one of the plants, and she's getting ready to walk to the greenhouse. She opens the door, and she sees her best friend Marlene dead, glass all through her. So that causes a big asthma attack. She runs in the house, try to call 911, but she can barely breathe, and she's reaching for all her asthma pumps, but of course Peyton emptied out. So then you see her drop on the porch. Her lips are all blue. The ambulance come rushing, and Peyton's like down the street looking at the ambulance like, damn it, my plan didn't work. So what's her name there? So she pretends she runs back to the house saying, I'm the nanny. Is she okay? Is she okay? So she's rushed to the hospital. The husband, Michael's there, and they had her like on a ventilator, I guess to help with her asthma. So as she's recovering in the hospital, Solemn's out there in the rain knowing that Peyton tried to kill her. So, you know, he's vowing that he's going to make sure this family be protected. So as the husband comes and Emma, they come to pick up Claire from the hospital. Solemn is riding on his bike behind them while Emma's looking. So they get to the house. Peyton's like basically took over. She's wearing the bracelet that Claire said that she could wear at any time, but Claire's still looking like, you didn't ask my permission. She's, you know, she's making herself at home. So Claire goes into the nursery and see all these turtles and all this, like, what the heck is this done to my son's nursery? And her husband Michael said, oh, Peyton wanted to be surprise you. And she's like, I wish you could have told me. And then he was like, do you want her to take it down? So she was like, no, that's not all right. So Claire is trying to rest. They're down there playing games. Michael, Emma, and Claire is looking on the step like, oh, this woman's lost her mind. So she remembers the note that was given her to call Marlene. So she goes to the office, and they said this is the last thing. She was looking at Dr. Mont thing. So she meets the real estate person there, and they let Claire in, and Claire is looking like, she said to the real estate guy, is there a nursery in here? Bingo, the nursery is the exact same turtles and everything. So then Claire sees the breast pump, and the real estate guy said, what is that? She says a breast pump. And then she puts it all together like this woman was still expressing her milk. So she zooms in the car while Michael, Peyton, and Emma, they're setting up the table for dinner. So they was like, I wonder where she could be. So soon as Claire gets home, Peyton is looking at her like, Claire, where have you been? Boom, she punches Peyton in the face. She goes flying off the table. And Michael's like, what the heck? And she was like, this is Dr. Mart's widow. And he was like, they was like, you have to leave now, Peyton. And she said, that's fine. I'll get my baby. I mean, at least so they didn't take, I think they took the key from her, but they didn't even realize this woman had extra keys or whatever. So Emma comes down the stairs like, where's Peyton going? And she was like, oh, your mommy and daddy want me to leave. So as she's leaving, Claire tells her husband, call the police. So as he's talking to police, he's like, well, it's not really emergency, which bull crap, honey. I've been like, I want you to come now. So she's telling her husband, I think she rigged the greenhouse to kill me. And he's like, pack your stuff, we're getting ready to leave. So the husband hears music coming from the basement that Peyton always plays. So he's going in the room. He sees nobody there. As he's going back up the basement stairs, Peyton comes out there with the shovel and bam, knock him down the stairs. And they hear the thump. And Emma's like, Daddy. And then you can hear Claire like, Michael. So as Claire is going down the basement, she sees like broken glass. So a hand reaches out to her ankle. She screams at her husband, and he's like, I can't walk. He's like, Peyton is in the house. So what's her name there? She goes and tells her daughter, Emma, lock the door and don't let Buddy in till I come in there. So as she's going in the kitchen, she's getting ready to call the cops. Peyton pops up behind with the shovel getting ready to hit her, but Emma was right there. Say, Mommy, look out. She ducked and what's her name there? I think she knocked her out for a second. So then Peyton goes up the stairs and Emma's looking at her like she's crazy. And she's like, Emma, Mama's here. Where is Joey? And she was like, he's in that room right there. So as she's going at that room, Emma locks the door, looking at her like, you're not my mommy. So what's the name there? Emma grabs her brother, hides in the closet with the, she puts the baby monitor in there. And what's the name there? Now, Peyton's going crazy. She's breaking the door. She's going in the bedroom, in the closet, and just sees the monitor there. So she's mad as hell. She don't realize that Emma and Joey is upstairs in the attic. So who comes to the rescue? Solomon. He has the ladder outside. He has Emma outside the window, and he was getting ready to grab Joey. So what's the name there? Claire, no, not Claire, I'm sorry. Peyton was like, you. And then Solomon had grabbed the baby. And she's like, give me my baby. And all of a sudden, you just see Claire comes up there and like, Peyton. So they start fighting and tumbling. My girl, Claire, she plays it off like she has asthma. So she has the shovel above Claire's head. And she said, when your husband at night, he thinks of me, your baby breast is, no, when your baby's hungry, it's my breast that feeds him. So she turns around and she says to her, push come to shove, you can't even breathe. I try not to laugh, but every time I hear that part, that do make me laugh. So as she turned around, Claire fakes that asthma, jumps on her. They fighting. She knocks Claire down. She's trying to come after Solomon with the shovel, and Solomon using his body to, you know, so she don't hurt the baby. She's like, give me my baby, my baby. Then all of a sudden, Claire gets up like tackling like a football player and runs into her stomach, push her out the attic window. She lands on the fence. The fence goes between her stomach. She's dead. Now, me, you could have made a part 2 to this movie. Just because that fence went between her stomach, I would have made it like, at the end, her eyes would have opened. I'd be like, oh, junk part 2. It could be open, y'all, for part 2. But then, Solomon said, it's okay, Emma, you can come back inside. So all of a sudden now you hear the police sirens come. And they was like, Claire looks at Solomon and be like, I trust you with Joey and stuff. So he's happy to hold Joey. They go down the stairs, the movie ends. The moral to the story, y'all, us being as mothers or even single father, you don't just take people word off the street. You do a background check and all that. She trusted Peyton more. Even though my man Solomon was mentally challenged, he would have been a better babysitter for her kids because he truly loves that family and he saved them toward the end. And she realized that now. Just because somebody's disabled or mentally challenged, that don't mean they can't take care of no children. But I guess she learned her lesson from this, y'all. But it do make you think. They could make a part 2 to this. Or they can just leave it like that, you know, she died, you know, from the fall. You know, the fence went through her stomach. But I would have made it like her eyes open at the end. And it just, whoop, and I'd be like, oh, junk part 2. But who knows? Maybe they may, or maybe they just leave it like that. But that's my review of my favorite movie, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Bye bye, y'all.